Imagine a weapon that feels like it's straight out of science fiction, one that can stop people dead in their tracks with a totally invisible, completely silent beam. Well, it's not a fantasy. It's a real piece of tech called the active denial system, and we're going to break down exactly how this so-called heat ray actually works.
You know, it all comes back to a really fundamental question for any military or police force. How do you handle a dangerous situation? How do you stop a crowd without resorting to deadly force? For decades, there wasn't a great answer, which is what pushed the US military to search for something totally new.
For basically all of human history, force has meant one thing: kinetic energy. A projectile, a rock, a bullet, a rubber bullet, physically hitting something. But this new paradigm, it's completely different. We're talking about directed energy, using the electromagnetic spectrum itself as the tool. It's a massive leap from physical impact to pure energy.
Okay, so let's pull back the curtain and get right to the heart of what this invisible force really is.
It's officially called the Active Denial System, or ADS for short, and what it does is project a focused beam of 95 gigahertz millimeter waves. The whole system, from top to bottom, is engineered for one very specific job: to make people back off, to deter them, without causing any permanent injury. So you can think of it less like a weapon of destruction and more like a tool of persuasion.
I know what you're thinking. That sounds almost impossible, right? How can an invisible beam have such an immediate, powerful physical effect on someone? Well, the answer is in some really, really clever physics.
Probably the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to compare it to something we all have: a microwave oven. Your microwave at home, it uses waves around 2.45 gigahertz. They're designed to penetrate deep inside food and cook it. But the ADAS, it uses a way higher frequency, 95 gigahertz, and that is the secret sauce. Because that higher frequency means the energy barely penetrates your skin at all. It doesn't cook you, it just heats the absolute tiniest top layer.
And when I say barely penetrates, I mean it's incredibly shallow. The energy from the beam is absorbed in just the top 1/64th of an inch of your skin. I mean, that's less than half a millimeter. It is just enough to set off your nerve endings, but nowhere near deep enough to actually harm the tissue or organs underneath.
And this brings us to a really important point, a common mix-up we have to clear up. The word radiation can be scary, right? It makes us think of dangerous stuff like X-rays. But that's ionizing radiation. It has enough energy to literally knock electrons around and damage your DNA. The SDS, on the other hand, uses non-ionizing radiation. Its energy is way too low to do anything like that. Its only effect is creating heat. That's it.
So this isn't about overwhelming someone with brute force. It's actually much smarter than that. The ADS basically hacks your body's most primitive reflex, that deep, hardwired instinct to get away from intense heat.
So let's walk through what they call the goodbye effect. It happens in a split second. First, the beam heats the moisture in that super thin top layer of your skin to about 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Instantly, the pain receptors in your skin just scream, sending this overwhelming signal straight to your brain. And third, your survival instinct just takes over. It's not a choice. It triggers an immediate, involuntary need to get out of that beam's path.
So what does it actually feel like? Well, people who have voluntarily been exposed to it in testing, they describe the sensation as if their skin is on fire, or as if they have opened a massive industrial oven. It's a feeling so intolerable that your body is just hardwired to escape it. Okay, so we've got the science down, but that leads to the bigger question. What's the real-world purpose? I mean, why was a system like this even invented in the first place?
Well, the ADS was created to solve a huge problem for soldiers and security forces. Put yourself in their shoes. You're facing a crowd that's getting aggressive. What are your options? You can shout warnings, which might do nothing. Or you can escalate to lethal force, which is a tragedy nobody wants. The ADS was built to exist in that giant gap, to be an option between a shout and a shot.
And having that option makes it perfect for a few key situations: controlling crowds in tense scenarios, protecting important buildings like embassies, defending the perimeter of a base, or securing critical infrastructure, all without ever having to fire a bullet.
But, and this is a huge but, this is where the story gets really complicated. A technology this powerful, one that can inflict such intense pain, of course comes with some massive ethical questions. Is this a revolutionary tool for safety, or is it something much darker?
On the one hand, if you look at the data, the official safety record is actually pretty remarkable.
During military tests, the system was used on human volunteers more than 13,000 times. And the injury rate? Less than 0.1%. And those injuries were almost all minor, like little pea-sized blisters from someone staying in the beam too long.
But then you get to the other side, and this is the argument from critics and human rights groups. They raise a really chilling point. They say that a weapon specifically designed to produce pain without injury is, by its very nature, the perfect tool for torture, because you can inflict agony without leaving any marks, without leaving any evidence behind. And this really is the heart of the whole debate. Critics worry about how it could be misused by authoritarian governments. They point out the serious danger if it's used on people who can't get away, like someone in a small room where it could cause severe burns. And then there's just the basic public relations problem. It's kind of hard to sell the public on a non-lethal safety device when everyone just calls it the pain ray or the death ray.
But here's the thing. Despite all the controversy, the technology that powers the ADS isn't going anywhere. In fact, what we're seeing now, it's just the very beginning of a much bigger trend in directed energy.
The first ADS systems are these massive, truck-mounted units. They're built around this big, power-hungry vacuum tube called a gyrotron. But the future? It's all about solid-state technology. Replacing those old tubes with modern electronics. And this evolution is going to make these systems way smaller, much more efficient, maybe even small enough to fit on a regular vehicle. Or, who knows, maybe even handheld one day.
But this might be the most surprising twist of all. The same science that powers this very controversial weapon, it also has incredible potential for totally peaceful uses, far, far away from any battlefield.
I mean, get this. The same millimeter wave technology is being looked at for creating super high-speed satellite communications. And even cooler, scientists are exploring using the gentle radiation pressure from these beams to literally nudge dangerous space junk out of orbit, effectively cleaning up the space around Earth.
So in the end, that leaves us with this huge question. The active denial system is a genuine marvel of physics. It's a tool that could absolutely de-escalate conflicts and save lives. But it also walks a very, very fine line. Is it a breakthrough that makes the world safer, or is it a dangerous step towards a tool for silent, invisible oppression? That's a dilemma we're all going to have to grapple with as this technology becomes more and more common.